With us now is award-winning recording and Grammy award-winning recording artist Steven Curtis Chapman. He's going to discuss with us his the new album, the tour, the Glorius Unfolding. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, doing well. Got a little craziness going on with the tour that I'm on right now, and weather conditions and whatnot. But all things considered, I'm doing great. It's good to talk with you.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for fitting us in, and let's go right to the tour. Tell us a little bit about the tour so far, and then we'll lead into kind of the great announcement about 2014, who's going to be joining you on the tour.
Yeah, well, the fall tour, I was out with a couple of wonderful artists. Laura Story, great singer-songwriter and worship leader at her church, and just an amazing person. Really, one of the cool things about touring together, kind of behind the scenes part, aside from all the music and what happens on stage, is just what happens behind the scenes is that we get to become friends, and you spend that much time together on the road and concerts and venues and having your meals together. You just become family, and she's a wonderful sister, of mine now, I feel like. And she had her little girl, Josie, out with her, and, Josie was kind of like our tour, mascot. She was, everybody got to love on Josie. So it was just a cool thing to get to be with Laura. Of course, her music, her song Blessings, if you're familiar with her music, is one that has really encouraged myself and my family and our own journey and our own story. And so it was a real privilege. I got to sing that song with her every night. And so part of the thing that I love about touring with other artists, I've started doing more recently, is not splitting it up so much as here's the opening act and here's my spot or the support acts, but kind of weaving us all together so it feels like a really unique night. You wouldn't, if you go see Laura or me or the other fellow that was with us, Jason Gray, if you see any one of us on a different tour, you're going to see something, different. But when we come together, I want to create something that night that's only going to happen with those, with the three of us together, interacting with each other, and on that tour, it's going to make it unique. And so we really got to do that several times. Laura plays upright bass, and we sang a song from a CD I released earlier this year called Deep Roots, which is actually a folk bluegrass CD. And so that was a very cool moment. And then Jason Gray is a great singer-songwriter, and again, just a great man, a great friend, and we got to do some music together and have him come out and sing on The Great Adventure, which is the first song he learned on the guitar. So it's kind of a cool full circle thing to come out and sing that song with me. And so that fall tour actually wrapped up a few weeks ago, and I'm actually out currently on a tour called The Story with several other artists, Casting Crowns and Matthew West and Natalie Grant, and a few other artists. And so it's kind of a sidebar for the Christmas season, something that I did as a Christmas tour, and put the Glorius Unfolding tour kind of on pause. And then we'll be resuming that coming up in 2014 in the spring, and actually have a couple of other artists that I'm really excited about getting a tour with. One friend that I've been out on the road with before, and a band of guys that I've known since their very beginning. I've kind of been, cheering them on and friends with them, but we've never had the chance to tour together. So I'm excited about seeing what kind of magic we get to create, for that night. Some fun musical moments and all that. I think it's going to be an exciting, fun tour to get to be with them.
We're talking with Steven Curtis Chapman. Of course, he's alluding to the 2014 leg of the Glorious Unfolding, where he'll be joined by the Afters and Josh Wilson. You can be able to, we'll have links there to get to the different shows and dates and times so you can get tickets for yourself when it arrives in your town. And it just sounds like a unique experience every single night. And it sounds like it's also been transforming you on this tour and your approach to things.
Yeah, those that have followed me, my music and life and story these last, few years, or these last not so few years, I've been, this is 26, almost 27 years since my first album came out, which is just hard for me to believe myself. And when I say it, it's like, really? How's that possible? But my 18th CD, it's just come out, and so I've done, a lot of tours over the years, and made a lot of music. And these last 5 years, 5.5 years ago, that we went through a very dark and difficult time, and the loss of our youngest daughter, and something like that obviously affects everything about everything. My music. Whether or not I ever tour again, whether or not I'm make another record, all of those were questions I had to wrestle with, and sort of, everything stopped, and then little by little began to try to determine what was appropriate and how was I to take the next step forward, taking care of my family, and what really the prayer, what God do I do with all of this as it relates to, the music I write, and even, what I do in concert, on stage, in tours. Is it ever appropriate to stand up after something that, incredibly sad and hard, to sing songs that are fun, because there's always been an element of my concerts over the years that has been fun. I think people would come and go, man, he's funny, we're diving in, we're saddling up our horse, if you know my songs, those are all references of songs of mine that, make you want to get up out of your seat and, dance and jump up and down and, clap your hands and have fun. And, trying to determine, what does that look like? Will I sit on a stool and play ballads for the rest of my, singing days? Is that what's going to feel most appropriate and most honest? And, thankfully, as God has brought healing into our hearts, while we still and will always have a broken heart, we will and will, always have questions and unanswered questions until heaven, and just a heaviness. We're going to carry a sadness with us, and it's not that ever, will be gone until heaven. And yet, we really have experienced, and I have, and I think my music and even my concert, and this concert, I think really reflects the fact that there is healing, that there is joy that returns and has returned to our hearts, and there are new things to celebrate, and the music reflects that. We've had, my kids, 3 of my children have gotten married since that very hard and awful day, which has brought new things to celebrate. And, we just, on a personal level, which my music always reflects that, there's been much to celebrate. And so I think this concert is a real celebration. The whole message of the Glorious Unfolding is that, this story, there is a story being told, and it, like any story, it involves some very hard, difficult chapters, some very sad chapters in all of our lives. But if I really believe what God has said in the Bible to be true, then I believe that it is going somewhere, and it's going to a place where ultimately, the story is ultimately going to turn out to be very epically good. And so believing that, holding on to that, this music and even this concert and this tour, I think really celebrates that. I think that's what it is. It feels like a real celebration.
Let me ask you about a recent film. Are you familiar with the movie Courageous?
You know what? I haven't seen it. I know about it, but unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see it yet.
I was just touched by your story and the emotional transparency there that you're sharing with us, and how much of that is conveyed in that Christian film as well. But let me move over then a little bit, because I know even the press release discusses how much of emotional gravitas is in the way of this project. But at the same time, you release a single like "Love Take Me Over," where you get people just can't stop dancing in her seats. Doesn't matter if we're in the car or in her pews and whatever. And let me tell you, my wife's been a fan of you many moons, and your CD was probably one of the first that we bought when we kind of renewed our life with Christ and all of that. And she says this song took me back to the very beginning, and I said, wow, I don't know enough about his music to know that. Now that we've filled in so many of the gaps, this song is did you have this in a safety deposit box for like 10 years, just not telling anybody? It's kind of how I feel. No offense.
Yeah, right. It is kind of interesting that a song like this, and particularly deciding to do it as a first single, I wrestled a bit with that because I thought, there are songs that, like the Glorious Unfolding, that was one that was considered as a first single, or a song on the record called Something Beautiful. A lot of those songs, and I thought, well, those might be a little more, or, do we need to start with a little more serious tone? That, like you said, it just kind of comes out of the gate, just, fun and hand clapping, foot stomping, get up on your feet and sing along. And, but I wrote that song out of, again, as honest, as I can be in this process. I wrote this song actually taking my girls to school one morning, just having a conversation with them, and conversations about particularly what was going on at the time in our life. We were in the process. One of the things in these last few years that's been a part of our journey has been kind of doing some major restructuring and kind of remodeling of some things in our house, so that we sort of felt like there was a new beginning there. We really struggled with moving, selling the house. Do we leave? Do we start, new? Is that part of kind of a new beginning for us? But it was really hard to imagine leaving what we'd called home for 20 years. And my wife, was really struggling with feeling like she couldn't leave there, but she couldn't live there. So we decided, well, let's, God had blessed us in a way that we were able to make some pretty radical changes to how it felt, and, to drive up to that house and make it feel new and fresh, but not leave, what felt like pretty holy ground to us. And so I was in the process of that, dealing with a lot of, contractors and builders and things going wrong and things not being like you thought it was going to. And, well, this is, this needs to be redone or changed, or, all that kind of stuff. It's just the normal day-to-day stuff that everybody's dealing with. Not too glamorous, not too spiritual seeming, but I was talking to my daughters, and as I always do on the way to school with them, praying about, with them, and praying one scripture in particular that I'll always quote as they leave: "Let the words of my mouth and meditations in my heart be pleasing in your sight." And just, thinking about what does it look like today for the words that I speak and the way I act and the things that I'm thinking towards even a very frustrating contractor who, isn't doing the things the way that we thought they were going to get done. That's the kind of stuff I'm living in right now. I need love to take me over. I need it to take the words I'm speaking, and the only way I can do that is again, like I've said in many songs before, realize, wait a minute, I am loved completely in all my mess, that's going on in my life. God loves me, and that isn't changed by, my messing it up at any point. So how can I love the way I am loved? And so that was what inspired that song. And, I sat down with guitar, and I knew I needed it to be something, to kind of, get my, the other thought was, how do I get my girls, I'm going to play this for them on the way to school in the morning, get them awake, get them pumped up for the day, get them ready to go, So that's kind of where that one came from. And yeah, it does feel like, I've had several people here that say, man, kind of feel like the first time I heard Dive, or the first time I heard Great Adventure, when I hear that music, it feels like, hey, that's our friend Steven Curtis. He's back. He's back with some of that music that we know him for.
Well, Steven Curtis Chapman is headed back out on the road. He's doing the Christmas tour right now. And tell us a little bit about being with Casting Crowns and Matthew West and the amazing time of the year. We get to rejoice in the birth of the Lord and kind of share a different kind of tone with people this time of the year.
Well, yeah, it's been a great thing to be a part of. If you're familiar with the music or the book, the story, which was actually it's the Bible. It was kind of rearranged. Several theologians and pastors got together, kind of headed up by Max Lucado and a pastor named Randy Frazee. But they sort of arranged Scripture in a way that read more like the story that it is, kind of more like a novel chronologically, and then encouraged churches, and there are many thousands of churches that have adopted that as kind of their, going through that in a way to kind of encourage the congregation to understand, here's the arc of the whole story. We often take a chapter or a verse, a book of the Bible out and look at that closely, but this kind of takes a big step back and looks at the whole arc of the story from creation to fall and then redemption and resurrection and through the stories of the lives of normal people like you and me. And that's really what this record kind of, or this music and the recording that we're doing live, performances of the songs recorded on a CD called The Story, written by Nicole Nordeman, incredibly written by Nicole Nordeman's amazing songs, and the music is written by a guy named Bernie Herms. And so many of us came together to participate in the recording of the CD, and it begins again at Genesis, and it goes through the stories of people like Moses and Sarah and Abraham and David, King David, and
a lot of the high points, right?
Yeah, and into the New Testament, Paul and Peter and the life of Christ and Mary, and it's just amazing music. And so it's been a pretty special thing to be a part of. I love that they do it at Christmas because, of course, as we're celebrating the birth of Christ and the turning point, the tipping point, of all of history, this is, I think it helps remind me that, this isn't, as much as I love the song, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, the reality is if we get the message of what is happening, what we're celebrating, not that it necessarily happened December 25th when Christ was born, but that we're celebrating, this reality that the better song would be Have Yourself a Huge, Majestic, Epic, Christmas, because it's
Every
not
day.
A merry little thing. It's
Right.
an amazing, reality of eternity, of eternal impact,
The last thing I want to wrap up with is, we're very strong advocates of adoption and really try to communicate a lot of organizations. And I know you and your wife, Mary Beth, work with a great one. Tell folks a little bit about Show Hope and how they kind of fit into that equation to help save some kids.
Yeah. Well, Show Hope started 10 years ago officially. It's about 13 years ago, and it kind of first began for Mary Beth and me just helping families. We've had our own adoption miracle journey that led us to China to adopt Johanna and then Stevie Joy and Maria. And out of that, we began to meet families that wanted to adopt but couldn't afford it. And so real simply, we started to help those families ourselves and realized that there was a great need there, and many families that would love to give a child a home that needs a family, and they just can't afford the cost involved because it can be just $20,000-$30,000 sometimes. And we set up an organization to invite people to help us help those families and those children from all over the world. And to date, we've been able to give financial assistance grants to over 4,000 families to adopt children from 50 different countries around the world, including the U.S. So it's been an incredible thing for us to be a part of, and it's way beyond and bigger than Mary Beth and me by far now. We got to be, people getting it started, but God has blessed it and kind of poured gas on the little sparks that we had when we started. And so we've just been able to kind of sit right in the middle of this incredible story unfolding again, and watch what has happened. And we, do specific work in China with children that are orphaned with special needs, and we do that through several medical care facilities that we have built and fund there. That obviously our love for China and the children and the people there. But, on a grander scale, the grants, again, are given to help families adopt kids from all over the world. And we do work now with, once families come home and bring home a wonderful child with, a story of their own, with lots of sometimes issues and complications and challenges. Challenges are going to be a part of that story, and how do we continue to encourage and love on those families. That's become a growing part of what we're doing as well, just trying to address the whole person, the whole issue, try to encourage, best practice in the adoption community. We do our share work in the, on Capitol Hill and the legal side of things, and trying to make sure that, it's being done with integrity and done well, and because there are certainly, plenty of opportunities for, things, and those seem to be the ones that hit the news or get sometimes the focus is, oh, that was a bad thing that happened, with that adoption or those children. Was that really done right? Or, so we're trying to address all of that in a way that just has integrity and seeing good things being done for children that just want a family and need a family.
It's a great organization.
So it's been a great thing to be a part of. Lots more information. Of course, the website, showhope.org, is a great place to find out how you can get involved with us, and we'd love to share lots more about it with you there.
All right, we've been talking with Steven Curtis Chapman. His new album, The Glorious Unfolding, is available. You get it everywhere now. Lifeways and Family Christian stores have it, of course, as well as the story, the tour, the Christmas tour they're doing right now, the novelization that helps kind of a synopsis of the Bible has been part of that. And then, of course, we look forward to the 2014 leg of The Glorious Unfolding, back on the road again with the Afters and Josh Wilson. So we'll have links to the cities and ticket opportunities there so you can catch up with Steven as he's traveling the U.S. Steven, thank you so much for fitting us in. God bless you and your family, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.
All right, Brandon. Thank you too, buddy.
All right, take care.